Good.
She is.
Good. Oh, great. Can we do it? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of Arts, Culture, Education, and Schools Committee. Manhattan Community Board 4 has a hybrid policy that can be found on our website. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance. Excused members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining on Zoom must leave their cameras on. This meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel and a transcript is being recorded. So good evening again. I'm Matt Green, co-chair of ACES, along with Josephine Ishman. Welcome again. Nice to see you all. So we have a great agenda this evening. I think we've got Iris on Zoom. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. So I guess we'll go right to, well, we have an open session to begin with. If there's any members of the public on any particular issues, now's the time to raise your hand and bring new business to the committee. Seeing any? So,
Can I just say one thing? I know that Maria had mentioned a coat drive. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Maria. I'm not sure if we're going to have another meeting prior to the drive that you do every year.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Hi, Iris. Good to see you. Oh, I couldn't hear you, but I know you're saying something good. So we're having the CB4 annual coat drive that we host with, I forgot how to say it, but it's connected to, Jesse, you could probably say it correctly, but it's connected to Metro Baptist Church. It's RMM, it's on the flyer. So we're having our annual coat drive Saturday, October 26th from 1 p.m. through 3 p.m. is when people usually from the community come to drop off. There'll be other places you can drop off before that if you're interested, but that day, 1 to 3 p.m. at Metro Baptist Church on 40th Street, and then also from 3 to 5 p.m., people who live in shelter in the community in CB4 come to pick up coats, men, women, children. And we have volunteers from CB4 who contribute their time, donate their time, as well as other members from the community. So if you're available and you're interested, I sent out an email about that already. So I'd love to have you. Thank you.
Maria, could you send it to me, please?
Yes, Iris.
thanks, Maria. Any questions about the coat drive? Thanks, Maria. Good to see you. Hope you're feeling better too.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Irish. Good evening. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us this evening. And so we welcome you back to give us an update on how things are going with students in temporary housing. And we appreciate you being here and providing these updates to us.
You want me to just present or do you want to ask questions?
So I think we can start with sort of a general overview of just sort of how things are going. I think our community will have lots of questions sort of based off that, and we'll go from there.
Okay. The 60-day letters at the HERCs, everybody knows what a HERC is? Okay. Has resulted in a lot of families leaving New York, of which we're looking for them because we have to find out where they go because they have children and they're registered in schools, but they don't discharge from schools. And when they leave a HERC, they can do it in 24 hours. It's very, very quick. But there are still more families coming in, not as much as a year ago, but we still have more families. One of the HERCs is closing, the Bird is closing, they lost their contract. And so all of those families will be moving into other HERCs. You should know, I don't know if you know this. When a family goes to the Roosevelt, and everybody knows Roosevelt, the arrival center, okay. If there is not space in a HERC, they can be sent to a Hannock. Do you know what a Hannock is? Okay. A Hannock is a commercial hotel where if you came to New York to visit, you would stay. And they have shelter families staying for up to 28 days. They bring them food every 3 days. There is no support in the Hannocks. There is no DOE representation. So the families are largely on their own. They register in schools and then they go back to the Roosevelt within the 28 days, and then they find another shelter where they're allowed to stay for 60 days. The schools that you have in District 2 have a large amount of STH kids because they're right by shelters. PS 111 is by the Skyline, and let's see, I got this all down for you. PS 111 has 155 STH kids, and that's because of the Skyline. PS 51 has at least 4 shelters zoned for their area. One of those shelters is the Roosevelt. There are over 1,000 children in the Roosevelt. So PS 51 is constantly getting more kids. When the kids are discharged, there's always another kid. I'm sure that they're completely filled up at this point. They have 213. PS 11 is not, they're not zoned for the shelter kids, but the principal has been lovely, has reached out to me and told me we're willing to take children living in shelters. So we're taking them from DHS shelters, the Paul Hotel, the Stewart, another HERC. Right now, his number is only 36. Well, I thought this meeting was 2 weeks ago, so my numbers are from 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. They ebb and flow. He has 36. Do you also know that DHS is going into a 60-day rule?
No, can you talk about that?
They tried for a year to get this initiated. If you do not have, now realize DHS has been very circumspect and not speaking a great deal about this, and it is not in effect yet. I don't have a lot of information, but nobody does. The way I understand it is if you don't have a case with HRA, and that's a financial case where you're getting public assistance, then after 60 days, you're asked to leave. If you don't have a place to go, you go back to the Roosevelt and you do the same thing that's happening at the HERCs. You'll end up perhaps in another DHS shelter, perhaps in a HERC, but they haven't started this yet. Now, a lot of our families, when they've come to the United States, a lot of the mothers got pregnant and had babies. And those babies are born in New York, and those babies all have public assistance. So those families are not moving. The Venezuelans who got working papers may avail themselves of some support, so they won't be moving, but it's case by case. I don't know how DHS is going to manage this, but it's going to be a really big upset. What else can I tell you?
I just wanted to go back to, did you give us the numbers for PS 33 and PS 212?
I don't think I gave you 33. Hold on.
Okay.
PS 33 is 140.
Okay.
PS 51 is 213. PS 111 is 155. Do you have PS 212?
Yes.
Okay. That's 70.
Okay. Is there like, what's the general, well, I guess probably, is there an age range? Like, are you seeing more preschool kids or?
You can ask, I'm sorry. These are kids from pre-K through.
Right, okay.
I could certainly get those for you. I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised to hear about the 60-day DHS rule. That's something that's new. I hadn't heard about that.
They haven't told us yet about accommodations if you have a chronically ill child, if your child is undergoing an evaluation with the CSE because the child has special needs. If the mother is ill, I haven't heard anything about accommodations.
Would you say that the majority of families in the DHS shelters have the HRA, are like financial cases or?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
If I had to make a guess, I'd say
Yeah.
30%.
Okay,
A lot of the women that came in became pregnant immediately and had babies.
wow. Right, so did they, I guess they probably didn't give you any reasoning behind this new rule?
No, I don't think that they can manage. I'm gonna hold my opinion. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sure
okay.
you all have opinions about this, especially with what's going on in our government right now.
Um, at each of these schools, I think there's been sort of like a point person who's been there to assist these families that's at the school. Is that true? And do each of these schools have at least a staff member to help navigate these families through, like a case manager with HRA if they do need public assistance and going through that process? How does that look
Well,
with these?
it's an interesting question that you bring up. With the exception of PS 212, we have community coordinators in all of those schools. We have a Bridging the Gap social worker at PS 51. I tried to get a social worker into 33. I was not successful with that. She gets a lot of kids. And we are supposed to be educationally based, so we are supposed to be working with educational issues. That doesn't mean my staff ignores what goes on. Yes, they make referrals to immigration, to medical, to whatever their needs are. The case managers in the shelter are also supposed to do that as well. How successful, I can't tell you.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out like what's the best way that, we can provide support, how can we respond? The last letter, we did do a letter about the 60-day, I'm sorry, 30-day turnover in the shelters. I don't think that went anywhere, but what's the best, what can we do, Iris?
I know what you did last year. I know what kind of stand you took. I think this is a done deal. I think that they're going ahead with the 60 days. I don't think there is very much that you can do right now. I'm being honest with you. What we do is when we knew about the Hercs happening, we supplied every family with a card, the name of the child, the OCES number, and we had them call us wherever they ended up, because you have to think also in terms of busing. These children are being bused. It takes forever to set up busing. You finally get busing in place, and then a month later you move. So we have to do that again. We have parents walking around with ID cards so they know who to call and what to do when that happens. I don't know what's going to happen with the DHS. I can't imagine what's going to happen. I have 32 shelters. You're talking about, you're 4, but there are so many more shelters than that. The other thing DHS is doing, and it's very abrupt, we have asylum seekers in all shelters, and they decide at any given opportunity, let's move this asylum family into an asylum shelter. No warning. They tell the parents in 24 hours, and then they move them. And that other shelter could be far away from the school. It's very difficult, and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. Another thing I should tell you is that the families have been complaining about the food. I don't know, it's really nice that they get 3 meals a day, but they want to do their own home cooking. They have no kitchen facilities. And that gets to be a problem. And then they try to make an argument to give me a cooking facility, get me out of this place. There are a couple of asylum shelters in the Bronx that have them, but that means moving up to the Bronx and moving even farther away from your school. And DHS's rationalization is these families are not working. How are they going to pay for food? I find that our families are very creative and find lots of ways to get money to do work, regardless of their working papers and where they are in that.
Any other questions? Yes, I'm sorry.
Do you have an after-school program for these children? And also, is there a program to get them to get acclimated to the life in the United States? I mean, like when our great grandparents came, there was programs how to be an American, the process of, I mean, these are children, especially the older ones, you know, how government works, just different things. Is there anything going on like that?
PS 51 has an after-school program. PS 111 has an after-school program. I have to say that the schools in your area have been more than welcoming to our new asylum seekers. I have had many problems with many other schools getting a child enrolled because they're not necessarily wanted. I have no problems with any of these schools. They have been terrific. And I'm sure that I'm not a pedagogue and I'm not in the school, I'm at Central. I don't see what goes on, but I know that they've gone to incredible lengths to make a child feel comfortable, to make a child be able to communicate, to buddy up. They have, at PS 11, there's a social worker that does cooking groups with the families, with the mothers, and the mothers come in and they make their, what they've made at home, and they're thrilled, and they all talk together, and it's a lovely little community that goes on. PS 111 does dinners once a month where they invited everybody, and it's an ethnic night. It may be Mexican, it may be Chinese, it may be like, let's do Thanksgiving. And the families come in, and it's a way of bonding. They are made to feel very welcome in these schools. I wish my other schools were as nice.
It's good to hear.
All right, Katie and Anella.
Hey, Ira, it's nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So a couple questions. Let's see, are there ESL, is there any ESL happening in the Hercs and in any of the shelters?
I tried very hard to set up ESL. I started with the Skyline. I started in July, a year ago, 18 months ago. And it took them until November to get into the Skyline, because at that point, the Skyline was an asylum hotel. They've taken all of the asylum kids out of these. There may be a few left, but there aren't that many that there were in the beginning. We have to work with District 79 to do that. You have to find a teacher. Then you have to recruit families to go. I tried to set up ESL in the Hercs when I was responsible for the Hercs. They hired somebody else now to do the Hercs. To my knowledge, there's no ESL in the Hercs.
Okay. And are there still, because I think there were for a while, right? Weren't there DOE reps in the Hercs and in the shelters?
You are correct. There are community coordinators in the Hercs. Their job is to register children for school, to separate out, another thing that goes on, special ed, children in need of special ed services. And I'm not talking about attention deficit disorder or a learning disability. I'm talking about serious things like cerebral palsy, spastic quadriceps, muscular dystrophy, autism. And if they go register in the enrollment center, they're going to be placed in a traditional school, but their needs aren't being met because they have special needs and they need a small class environment. So I have weeded out every time I get a special ed kid, it goes straight to the CSE office. We do a comparable service plan, and the child gets placed in a District 75 program and then gets evaluated. So that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Okay, and you had mentioned at the beginning of your talk that a lot, because of the 60-day rule, a lot of families have left the city.
Yes.
And I was wondering, do you have a sense, like, as a result of that, I mean, I know there are more families coming, but are there now less kids? So there are overall fewer kids in the shelters. And than there were before, so therefore there's fewer kids in the schools. Like I know last year, my recollection is that the schools, the local schools were all full because of the demand of
Right.
the.
It went to District 4 and District 5 and District 6 and District 1. Well,
So
I understand.
wondering, how has it impacted the enrollment, the student enrollment at the schools? Are some of our schools now not full because because so many of their students have left?
Correct. A year ago, we had over 5,000 kids in District 2. Now we have 4,083.
Huh, interesting, okay. Wow. All right, and then my very last question, well, I mean, I know you said that you think that this is a done deal, that the 60-day rule is gonna apply to the shelters, but I don't know, it seems like we wrote a letter that it shouldn't have applied to the Hertz, and then it seems like maybe we should at least write a letter and get on record about, trying to make sure there's some more advice there.
I think it's great. I don't think it'll do anything. I think the city's feeling is that they've had enough with migrants in New York, that we're spending a lot of money. And I think that's the feeling of city government right now. I could talk to you about my unaccompanied youth, and I have 1,000 kids and they have no place to sleep, and they're sleeping in the men's shelter. And the men's shelter is no place for an 18-year-old kid. And not only that, these kids have come in, these unaccompanied youth have come in, and they have on their visa, it says that they're 18, but they're really not 18. They're 14 and 15. We sent a kid for a bone density test at Columbia Presbyterian to prove the age of the kid. And if you're 14, 15 years old, ACES has to be responsible for you. But they refuse to pick it up because it says on the visa the kid is 18, the kid must be 18. Imagine a 14-year-old kid living in the men's shelter in a dorm with mentally ill men, with substance abusing men, and they don't know the city, and getting them registered for school. If we can get them registered, they're allowed to stay in the men's shelter for longer than 30 days. So we've been talking with the Hertz about taking a part of the Herc for just these kids. And then, that would be a safer environment for them where we could supply services. So I don't know if it's going to happen. There are talks about that.
And you said you have 1,000 unaccompanied youth, is that right, total in the city?
I know I have 1,000. Some of them are living in shelters for unaccompanied youth. Some of them are in the men's shelters. Some of them are there's an agency called Africana on 125th Street. They've been living in mosques. Some of these kids are very plucky. They get a job and they rent a room and they double up.
And are there any shelters for unaccompanied youth in our district?
No, Covenant House.
Yeah, Covenant House, 147.
Covenant House has 150 beds, and they've been very kind to the kids. See, here's the problem. You're allowed to stay in a shelter like that for 60 days. You may get a 30-day extension for 90 days, and then you move on to a till. But there's got to be a bed in the till for you to move. And if there's no bed in the till, you get discharged. And then you go back to the men's shelter and you do it all over again.
Okay, thank you.
I digress. This is not about your schools.
Iris, my name is Ella and I'm a new community board member. We're working on our statement of district needs, and I recall last year we had some requests in our schools to accommodate these students in temporary housing. If you had to highlight what are the top sort of funding needs that we can champion in our statement of needs, what would those be?
Good question. We do needs assessment with shelters to find out what they need. I will tell you off the top of my head, they need hygiene supplies, toothpaste, a toothbrush, deodorant, things like that. They need underwear and socks. They need shoes. They're going to need winter coats. Thank you, Maria. Kids grow out of clothing. They need clothing. For every, about Title I funds, every school gets $1,000 per child. And so we have to find vendors to order those supplies to give it to the kids. And we're working with schools over how you do that. Oh, also, one other thing. Food that, what do they call it? Food that doesn't spoil. I'm having a senior moment. Not anything that you cook. What, do you know?
Non-perishables.
Non-perishables?
Yes, yes. That's also wonderful and a big treat. And it should come in some kind of bucket so they can bring it back to the shelter and not have it taken. Because they don't want to bring bugs.
About that you said something about the haddock shelters where they stay for 28 days. Is that an acronym for something? What?
Hotels. Hotels something of New York City.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
There's none in your immediate area. They're downtown. I had one in Chinatown.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, thank you so much, Iris, as always, just for visiting us, but Iris has been at this for decades now, and I can't thank you enough for sticking with this and it's been so much happening, especially in the last couple of years, so thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Josephine, we are talking about a letter related to this topic.
I would like to, the question is, what angle? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm really surprised to hear about this 60-day rule, and I don't even know what to say, Maria.
So I if you don't know, I happen to work at Ryan Health. I'm a psychotherapist there. So I work on 46th and 10th. I do have families that do reside in shelter in our community. And I have had some who have shared with me they have had to leave and come back. And I have a patient who has a couple of children, had to leave, was at one shelter, had to leave, go to the Roosevelt, and then ended up somewhere else for a little while and then came back. And I have had a family who patient with a child who has special needs and was able to stay at the shelter even given the 60-day notice to leave. I'm not clear on why she was able to stay. I'm assuming it has to do with her child who has special needs. But so I know there are families who do get to remain where they are and some have to relocate. I do think even though we feel like we can't do anything, I think maybe us writing a letter related to this would be important. But I also think the other thing related to the unaccompanied youth and allowing, I don't know who it would go to right now, but Iris talked about Hercs having some space for unaccompanied youth. I think that would make sense. I can only imagine the trauma that it is to leave your family and to be in a men's shelter who have a lot of social service needs, and then you really are a child and how vulnerable you really are in that environment, right? And it doesn't, and I think it would be better in a HERC. I have visited a HERC. I have worked at a regular DHS shelter. There's a difference. So I think if we could write that letter, obviously including to electeds, local electeds.
Right, no, I agree with that strongly. Should we do two separate ones or include them both on the same letter?
I'm usually a fan of one letter just because it's, but I know Katie usually makes sense and she's like, no, there should be two. I'm like, oh, damn it.
I mean, I totally agree with you, Maria. I think those are two great points to make, and I absolutely think we should have. But you're right, Maria, you called it. I think they should be two separate letters.
Right.
Yeah, and Wendy said the same thing, yeah, that. But I do think, I mean, did we ever even get a response when we wrote our letter last year about the 60-day rule?
There's the 30-day,
Or,
no.
I'm sorry, the 30-day rule.
What's so interesting to me is that, with the 30-day, I mean, that was a direct response to just the thousands of.
No, I don't think it's 30, it is 60 days,
Well,
isn't it?
no, the 30-day rule was definitely response. It happened right before Christmas. I believe this was last year. And it was a direct response to the thousands of migrants that were coming into the city. I don't know if it was daily, weekly, but this 60-day rule is something completely new. This is for the DHS shelters. We've got families that, you know, their families have lost jobs. They were born, raised here. The parents were born, raised here. They lose their house because of some, you know, either they lost their job, they get evicted, whatever, they can't find another place to live. We all know how expensive the city is. And those, they have been able to stay in these shelters for quite some time, and the kids really made some headway in the schools. Kids were doing as well as they could be. And now, on top of the 30-day turnaround for all the asylum seekers, now we're talking about in the DHS shelters as well, the families who have lived here, as I say, for decades. These kids were born here. They are having to leave.
Josephine, can I just interject for clarity?
Yes.
There's something
Yes.
that I heard Iris say that was really significant. When she talked about the 60-day rule for DHS shelters, she said, if the family has no HRA case, and I think that's kind of the loophole in how you get to families that haven't lived here for decades. You get to the new families who've just arrived from other countries if they don't have an HRA case. And if they haven't had new children.
Okay. But then, as she says, that now people are having kids right away, which is just making every, you know. Right, compounds the problem, but it's understandable in a lot of ways, if that's your only way of getting around this. I mean.
Yep.
The lack of foresight that this was not going to happen is just really, scary, you know. Yes, Jesse.
No,
No, please, I'm looking for.
no, I was gonna say, I think if there's general consensus that a letter, 1 or 2 is good, I think maybe we hold off on the details. Let's have, the next
Yes,
agenda
of
item,
course.
and then we can circle back, because I think unless there's someone that feels strongly that we shouldn't do a letter.
Yeah.
We certainly can figure that stuff out.
Thank you.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Great, so we have Paul Taylor Dance Company. So a few weeks ago, a few of us got to go visit your new home on West 38th Street. So Kathy and Amanda, welcome.
Hello, we're here with everyone in the education department.
Thank you so much for meeting with us this evening. My name is Carolyn Adams, and I'm the Director of Education with the Paul Taylor Dance Company.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Marshall. I'm the Associate Director of Education.
And I am Amanda Stevenson, the Taylor School Manager. I am going to share my screen for this little presentation, so give me a minute.
The company and the Taylor School have just moved to Community Board number 4 into our 30,000 square foot space with 6 glorious studios and state-of-the-art offices. We are at 307 West 38th Street. We're eager to introduce ourselves as new members of this community in the hope that you will discover ways in which our contribution to this community is effectively aligned with your social, educational, and cultural priorities. Born in 1930, dancer choreographer Paul Taylor founded his company in 1954 and was a pioneer on the landscape of American modern dance. He died in 2018, leaving his rich legacy in the visionary hands of his chosen successor, Michael Novak. We are celebrating the company's 70th anniversary with this expansion from our studios on the Lower East Side, where we have deep roots in the community. We are hoping to have a similar impact here in our new home through partnerships with schools, organizations, institutions, and the general public.
Amanda, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've seen this presentation, so just to let you know, your slide is still on the first slide from what we're seeing.
Thank you.
There you go. All right.
Thank you. We are widening our footprint here, and with the Paul Taylor Dance Company and Taylor School coming to this neighborhood, we hope to provide enrichment to the community and offer our services to all the residents while contributing to the local economy here.
Over the course of 64 years, Paul Taylor created 147 works, many considered masterpieces. He received many prestigious awards, including the National Medal of Arts, and is considered one of the creative geniuses of modern dance. Michael Novak was the principal dancer with the Taylor Company from 2010 to 2018, when Paul Taylor chose him as his successor. Michael took the helm with a clear vision for the future of the company. He has gathered a group of world-class dancers, choreographers, educators, and creative thinkers. And the company continues to innovate and transform the landscape of 21st century dance performance and education. Who are we? The Paul Taylor Dance Company is a world-renowned modern dance company with 16 dancers, with an administrative and production staff of 24. We're also a highly regarded school with a teaching staff of 78, including our on-site and outreach teaching artists. We perform. The Paul Taylor Dance Company tours and performs internationally, appearing in a wide range of settings, including historic opera houses throughout the world, as well as at major dance festivals, colleges, and universities. The company performs annually at Lincoln Center, where it presents a wide spectrum of dance. With Taylor's works at the core, it also presents historic works from the modern dance canon, along with newly commissioned works celebrating the next generation of dance makers. We teach. Through the year, we offer a wide array of classes and workshops for students of all ages and abilities in a welcoming and nurturing environment. Our expansive outreach initiatives reach thousands of students and audience members each year. And we preserve. The evolving Taylor archive is rich and accessible. It is used frequently for the restaging of works, as well as for licensing and teaching.
And now Amy and I are going to get into a little bit more of the specifics of what the Taylor School offers. One of our programs that we have is Taylor in the Schools. We are a licensed vendor of the Department of Education, and we provide dance residencies that are customizable to each school. Our teaching artists aim to nurture each student while sharing the experience of Taylor dances, creative exploration, technical study, and reflective processing. Our K-12 curriculum meets and exceeds the New York State Learning Standard for the Arts and the New York City Blueprint for Teaching and Learning in Dance. With every residency, we offer classes with live musical accompaniment, field trips to get the students into our building to get a behind the scenes look of what happens at a dance company and how it runs. And we provide scholarships to attend our in-studio classes for a select number of students that are in the residency. Here's a short video that we have for you on our previous Taylor in the School residencies. Some other programs we have, whenever the Paul Taylor Dance Company performs in New York City, we have educational programs to help get kids and their families to the theater. Arnhold Tier 3 Dance Education and Audience Development Initiative was named to reference a section of the theater in Lincoln Center, the third tier. Tier 3, Arnhold Tier 3 gives free tickets to New York City public schools with dance educators on staff. 27,000 children and family members have filled seats during our New York seasons to experience the thrill of seeing the range of modern dance in a live performance. In 2022, we started an additional program, the Polaris Project, to reach community organizations, churches, private and charter schools, providing these organizations with free and low-cost tickets to ensure that performances remain accessible to all, and to provide enrichment experiences that help foster a sense of community inclusion. Some of the groups that we have had in our Polaris project are Big Brothers Big Sisters, Global Kids, Ballet Tech, and Good Plus Foundation. With both of these programs, we offer additional workshops and Q&As with the dancers to enhance the theater experience. I'm going to show another short video just to give you an example of some of the offerings with these two programs. This winter, we are really excited to open our studio doors here at Midtown. And throughout the year, we will be holding events and neighborhood open houses to give the community a taste of the environment that the Taylor School creates. These open houses will be free to the public, and we will offer sample dance classes and fitness classes, cultural events, meet the artist talkbacks, and activities for children, and much more.
We will also be offering at these studios a multiple of classes for people of all ages. Our Midtown location will open our youth program for the spring semester in February 2025. We also have a teen ensemble for high schoolers where they learn Taylor dances and perform them throughout the tri-state area. We also have a Taylor outreach ensemble. It's a professional level student company who can be booked to perform Taylor works in the schools and other venues. For the summer of 2025, we'll offer full day summer camps at our studios for kids. We also have a professional and an open class division, and it's sort of a pay-as-you-go classes, and we'll be offering many different styles. And we also will be offering fitness classes, Pilates, yoga, and strength training.
So we want to partner with you. We want you to come dance with us, and we want to be a resource for you in this neighborhood. And we also want you to be a resource for us as we move into this neighborhood. Things to do, reach out to us to learn how to get groups that you know in the community that can participate in the Polaris Project or Arnhold Tier 3 and get discounted or free tickets to come to Lincoln Center this fall. Our season starts November 5th and runs through the 24th, and there's still time to register groups for those two programs. We could also be introduced to teachers that are interested in bringing dance into their school with our Taylor in the School residencies. And then mark your calendar for early 2025 or maybe even December of this year to join us in our new studios where we will have classes for everybody. And we would love to hear any other ideas and ways that you would want to partner with us. So with that, we'll take the time right now to open the floor to any questions, either about the Paul Taylor Dance Company or the Taylor School.
Thank you so much for the presentation and welcome again to the neighborhood. It is really a beautiful space. We were lucky enough to take a walk through of it a few weeks ago. So I hope everything's going well with the rest of the construction and your moving in is going smooth.
So far,
So far, good. So yeah, we'll open it up to questions from the committee.
I have a quick one. So I was one of the people lucky enough to see the space and it's awesome. So glad to hear that things are moving along apace. One thing that I didn't hear you mention about what's gonna be available there that I thought I'd heard you mention before, but I could be wrong, was that you were going to make, space available for people to like, rent out,
Yes.
practice rooms or rehearsal space and that sort of thing. Is that still the plan?
yes, that is still the plan. We have we have space that is available for rent when there's not classes or the company is rehearsing. But yes, it is large studios that we have that are available to rent.
We have someone on staff here that will be dealing with just that, so you can absolutely call if you're interested in space.
I just think that's something that I know various dancers and performers who are always looking for practice space, so that's great to know. Cool, thanks.
I think our email addresses are there. We would invite you to contact us for any questions you have or any follow-up, and we'll just make sure it happens.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the neighborhood. Very excited for this. I just had a quick question. You mentioned doing, working with schools. Have you set up any residencies in the pipeline with any schools within the district yet? Or is that something you're looking to do still?
We're really looking to set up some of our more longer term residencies in this district. We have partnered with PS 11 through Arnhold Tier 3, bringing them into the theater and giving workshops at their school. But we do have long residencies set up in the district that we're in the Lower East Side, because as we mentioned, this is an expansion from our studios in the Lower East Side. We partner with PS 110, PS 20, and a Silver in the Lower East Side, among a few others. We also have residencies in Queens and Brooklyn, and Staten Island currently.
So are those like partnerships with the schools done individually or through like, I don't know, more at a superintendent or district level? Trying to understand like more sort of logistically how we can help facilitate that introduction, because this is such a robust program. I mean, you guys seem like you know exactly how you get into a community and, you know, convert everybody. I love it.
Yes, that is, well, we're all very passionate about what we do, so it's easy on our end.
I think it varies how these relationships are built. Sometimes it's through a teacher in the school that we've identified or has approached us. The dance field is quite intimate, actually. So part of what we do, we're all dancers and teachers, and there's sort of a network that gets built all along. We very often find that when we work with teachers, we've identified them through the course of being dancers in New York and educators in New York. We go to conferences and that kind of thing. But sometimes it does have to have, the principals are very important. If the principal's on board, then that is very, very helpful, because you were mentioning earlier some of the logistics of moving people around the city and the whole bus drama and all of that. So sometimes it is a principal. So we just look for relationships wherever we find they will flourish, basically, and it does vary to some degree.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's in the schools that do not have a dance program. If you can reach the principals or even superintendents to say, we're in your neighborhood, and really there's an opportunity to not just utilize us bringing dance into your classroom, but it's so rewarding for the kids to do a little field trip and come into our studios here and see the costume shop and the company maybe rehearsing through the conference window, things like that. So whether it's principals, superintendents, it's just getting the word out that we are here and we can come to your school. And as a vendor of the DOE, it's very easy for schools to set aside that money and we can use that.
Welcome to the neighborhood. I apologize for missing your tour. I'm sorry I missed it. You mentioned you're gonna be doing yoga classes. I just wanted to put on your radar, and if you want to talk offline, you can. The Ienga Institute, which has many dancers who are also now certified yoga teachers, is on West 22nd Street. They're moving this Saturday to West 22nd Street. So I think that might be a good thing for you all, because they work with a lot of dancers. Their teachers have had extensive training and certifications. So I think that would be a good fit. It's the Ienga Yoga Institute. I don't know if you're familiar or you have a yoga team or.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, that would be great.
that's great.
We will definitely look into that. Contact them.
Do you want me to contact you through Jesse, or he'll give you my number or whatever?
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and welcome to the neighborhood. I hope to
Thank
show up.
Thank you.
We're excited.
Happy to be here.
Any other questions from the committee? I have just two quick things. One is, in addition to working with the schools, you may want to reach out to Hudson Guild. They do a lot of work with the NYCHA residents around Elliott, Chelsea, and Fulton houses. PF 33 would be a school with a lot of those students, so PF 33 should be a school that, and I believe Cindy Wayne's still the principal there. They're just 10 blocks to your south. So PF 33 would be great, but as well as Hudson Guild, which is a community-based organization that, as I said, does work with a lot of the NYCHA residents. And then on the tour, I did mention it would be great, and I think there was maybe a follow-up conversation with the Hell's Kitchen Hudson Yards bid. You're like just 300 feet outside the boundary lines, but there is an open space down your street called the Canoe, and then there's Bella Asbug Park. And always great to activate those spaces, whether it's a dance, yoga, performance, just looking for ways to bring those public spaces online. Just curious if you've had, those conversations with the bid and anything we can be helpful with on that.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna jump in there, Matt. This is Kathy. Hi, hello. And just to say that I'm actually continuing to try to find some scheduling with the people at the bid. So that is also underway. Thanks for that reminder. But yeah, we're working on the scheduling, hoping to get a meeting next week, in fact.
That's terrific. Great. Well, keep us in the loop if there's anything we can do to be helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for the referral when you were here on the tour. Much appreciated.
That's great.
Anything else? All right, we look forward to coming back soon. And please keep us updated on, any events that are happening, and, we're happy to get the word out to the community.
Yeah, we'll continue to give you things for the newsletter, and we look forward to seeing all of you in our space for yoga and more.
Thank you so much.
Thank
See
you.
you at Lincoln Center.
Okay. So that is that. Are we able to bring up, so we're gonna switch now to talk about the statement of district needs. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to look through the materials from last year. But our goal as a committee is to prioritize what our budget needs are for this upcoming year. And then that will be brought to the budget task force and then voted on by the full board. So Jesse's gonna bring up
so I have
the tent.
Yay.
We did it out.
just thousands and thousands of dollars.
So there's more capital stuff on here, so a couple things, so one material is the expense spreadsheet, which we have a few items for. You'll see that the first column is priority, it jumps from 4 to 14 because that's the whole entire board's priority number, it's not just ours. So our priority for expense is really those, begins at 4 and 14, so you can think of those as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we also have capital, so those are the two buckets, we've got the expense and then we have capital. So I think, and then there's also, there was one sheet in here with some updates on just some things, like we got some feedback on like some items have been funded. Some things have changed, there were a few new items. That's this right here. So as you'll see, there's an update to this first one. We'll go over this in more detail. And then I think the Columbus Branch Library has an update. They were able to receive some state funding for the roof, but they've got an HVAC repair that they now have. But the thought here is to have a discussion. I think if we could start maybe with the expense list, we don't have too many items. But if we could pull that up, Jesse, and kind of take a look, and I think, for the most part, a lot of these needs carry over. But we should have a conversation about, or have things come up over the last year that have really risen that we feel should really take priority over other items. So I just thoughts on sort of, as folks have looked over these items, we can go through these.
It's number 3. After the deal, okay. We spoke with the superintendent and I think his 3, for the expenses, the tech upgrades. After school continues to be something that they need, and then I think this pre-K extended day.
Right, the superintendent, McGuire, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, I
we
just have
do
a
have-
really quick question.
Yeah.
What's ESL? ESL program?
That's the English, yeah, yeah.
Josephine, excuse me, which one are we doing first, capital or expense?
We're on expense first.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we do have the. Can you go back up to number 1, sorry, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after school programs was this number 1 item. I don't think we had the technology, which the superintendent said in our top 3.
Are we doing education separate from arts? Because we had a couple of arts organizations that came in to present. Jesse, did they ever send you any?
I was gonna ask you, because I didn't get anything. I mean, I know you talked about it and then you
Right.
shared some information, and I think we got some kind of general email, but we never got anything, to my knowledge, that I felt, right? That I felt specific enough to say, oh, yes, this is an official request.
I did not say anything.
No, so.
We can, encourage them to. See if it's time to.
When is this due? I'm sorry, Katie.
18th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
for our sort of draft is due to our budget committee, our first draft of different sections is due the 18th, which is, later this week.
Well, but you're voting on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, you guys should have a.
Priorities.
Yeah, the fundamentals should be there.
Yeah.
For tonight, for you guys to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, right, I mean, you guys can keep them as they are, and certainly the technology. And the superintendent did have some additions in terms of he wanted software included in that, specifically highlighting that as, but.
What does this mean, though, on the first one, that the agency agrees with this request, but the funding decision follows a different budget process? So does it even make sense for us to be talking about it in this venue?
I'll give you my 2 cents, that this document is more than simply just a budget document, it is a political document. So if you find this to be important, that if some things maybe follow a financial on that, but that answer, while somewhat helpful, doesn't really provide us a pathway to get to what we're asking for. This is basically, there's another more complex route that we actually don't have any say in it whatsoever.
Got it.
Right, this is like our opportunity to actually say something about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do think sometimes that's an answer to be helpful with,
Yeah.
but I think sometimes you have to say, is the statement more important
Mhm.
than the actual detail of like where it's going to?
That's very helpful, thank you.
Right, the superintendent, I believe on that one said that they were applying for state grants, but who knows if that's ever gonna happen, and like, we need the after-school programming for kids, especially in this district.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think since we didn't receive any letters from our organizations, but they've all said that, like, they do after-school programming, they work with our schools, so this is sort of like a way of tackling that issue too, is like, by saying that we need after-school programming, we're also saying we're supporting a lot of the arts and programming. Like
I would certainly
so.
encourage leaving this one as a top priority,
Okay.
right? Yeah, but I just want to be clear though,
Yeah.
my recollection, and sometimes I get confused by the school numbers. The after-school programs, those actually only, are those only middle schools or are those?
Yeah, these are elementary.
These are only elementary
and-
schools.
Yeah, these are elementary schools.
After
Because-
school and middle schools is free, that's run by Manhattan Youth, yeah.
Right, but then I thought I had heard, but maybe I'm wrong, I thought I'd heard that there was some. That funding wasn't entirely guaranteed.
Well, yeah, we did talk about that on the call a little bit, but
Right.
we don't really know anything yet.
Yeah, so I guess I was just wondering if we should say something like. You know. We think all. That we think all elementary schools and middle schools should have after-school funding. And like we've asked for in the past, these elementary schools need after-school
Yeah.
funding, and we want to make sure, or we want to. Highlight that, that the middle school should continue to get the funding that they've been
Right.
getting, or something, you know what I
Should
mean?
they
Like,
defray the cost to elementary and middle schools with limited resources? Just make it specific.
What about high schools? They don't have any school programs?
They have some, and they have clubs and things, but,
It's
Cause-
mostly clubs,
Yeah.
it's not like teacher-led, because they're older, so
Yeah.
they're kind of free, they don't need, a lot of these after-school programs is sort of like. It's
Childcare.
babysitting, it's
Yeah.
childcare, yeah.
But for the high school, I'm always concerned, a lot of them, they always talk about, the youth. They get in trouble because there's nothing to do after school,
that's true.
the high schools. Is there anything on that level, well, probably this is not the right time to ask, but I'm just, is there anything on that level that we have in funding? Like the boys club,
Yeah.
the girls club, the Girl Scouts, the Boys, I don't know, what we.
I mean, there are organizations like the High Line has a teen youth program, right? Hudson Guild has a similar program. I mean, there are organizations that provide teen programming, right? But those aren't really city funded.
And they're not directly the high school.
There's not like administered by a city agency.
Except for the parks department,
Parks Department,
the
yeah,
recreation centers.
rec centers, yeah. Um,
So with the elementary schools and middle schools, it's easier because you have a captive audience, the kids aren't taking off.
Mhm.
But in high
Unless
schools,
there's a
it's
bus
very
issue.
hard, right, so the high, you're right about that, but the high schools. Once kid gets done in school, they're not, if they're, sometimes they're on a sports team. Or they'll be in the theater club or music rights and kids go to work, but outside of that. I don't know. if it's
Yeah.
anything.
And we haven't really connected with the super for high schools, so we wouldn't know about what the high school
Yeah.
needs are.
To
Yeah,
be fair, there's a
Well,
lot
we
going
do on
on,
the
so.
capital level, we do know some from the capital
Yeah.
side. of-
Yeah, they have given us that.
So with the addition of adding, of being a little more specific with elementary and middle schools, are we good with this for number one? That's something.
Yeah, and I just wonder, like,
Yeah.
do we think it's helpful? Or limiting, like, should we list the schools, or should we just say,
I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
It's
I think,
helpful to
yeah.
list the
Yeah,
schools.
these are,
Right,
yeah,
so does that mean we should list the middle schools too?
no, I
we
don't
only
think so.
have three.
Yeah.
And they're, I would definitely list the 212 not on there for some reason, the town has.
It's on there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Oh.
okay,
All right,
Okay.
moving on.
okay, so we have talked about this, oh, wait, where are we? Okay, here's two.
Yeah.
So expanding funding for bilingual educators.
So should we put what the superintendent asked for though, the technology?
Yeah,
Right, so we have
that's
that a little
later.
further down,
Oh,
so we
okay,
could
we
move
do
that
that,
up
that
if we
yeah.
wanted to prioritize tech. So for those of you who aren't able to make the call with the superintendent, year after year, you know, there's always a need for technology. And so that's just a constant need. We do have it on our list. It's not one of the top ones, but we wanted to move that up in place of, I think the next two were English language programs. Wow.
So moving technology to number two.
Number two.
Okay, that's good.
I mean, I fully, wish that we would have more bilingual educators, but the whole idea of this request requires further study. I mean, I think that says a lot. And our city's just not gonna put the money there. So I'd rather put,
well, they did make an announcement about it last year, wasn't it, right? Like they were like, oh yes, we're gonna try and hire more bilingual educators, I don't know.
I mean, I think it goes also, it's not only that we don't invest, but it's also the supply.
Yes,
There's
that's
just,
another,
you know,
another issue.
So I think the one change to this would to have software, because right now this is actually like a capital thing with laptops and stuff, but software would be a.
Yes,
Yes,
you specifically
yes, yes.
mentioned that, yes,
Yeah.
it's all,
All right, so we're gonna make tech number two and adding software.
yes.
Okay. Do you wanna keep, do we put in UICD, SO?
One more above it, is there?
Well, there's I'm sorry, there's the bilingual educators.
Yeah.
Do you wanna move that to number three?
Are we putting in extended care or pre-K?
yeah, I think it sounds like I would say, let's put in the extended care for pre-K.
Yeah.
That's new, correct?
That's new.
Right.
That's currently
what you
not
said
in
on the call.
expenses.
Right, yeah.
But are we on record on that?
We, in our budget letter, I think we talked about. We have to go back to the letter that we wrote on to DOE on the budget. Around the budget cuts, and then we talked about 3K.
Okay,
Well, that,
and do you feel confident?
we definitely did.
I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be like,
Yeah.
call you out
Hey.
in full board about it.
We're on the record.
No extended care, we're against it, but I just wanna be like, we traditionally do not like to put.
Newish.
Newish, yeah, new
Yeah,
product,
that makes
but if
sense.
we're on record about it, then,
Yeah,
okay, so that's a whole new thing for number three.
On this list, yes, but I
Yeah.
specifically, remember it was in that letter, because I saw it and I clarified extended day for.
Well, it's not like it's a new,
Yes.
it's in the
Yeah,
grant
yeah.
administration,
And
or
then-
expense.
yeah.
Yeah.
for number 3,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, and you're gonna send me the letter.
Don't you
I'm
have
sure I
all
did,
letters?
I'm sure I did, but you're gonna send me the highlighted portion.
That
It's
you
specifically-
got it too, my friend.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
are we moving, we still have bilingual and then the DYCD program, are we,
Yeah.
how do we feel about those two? 4 and 5?
Are we good with keeping those in the top 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say you guys have done more, just like more work on the DYCD program.
Yeah.
Than necessary. I mean, this was specifically a request coming from the superintendent last year,
Right,
which wasn't really brought up this year.
Yeah.
So I'll just say, in terms of the work you guys have done, you've written 2 letters, I think you've written 2 letters on this, the DYCD program. So I mean, it doesn't really matter whether it's 4 or 5, but if you wanted to say. Like what you guys' where your focus was.
it just reminds me, we should have the person from DYCD come on and talk about those programs again, the adult learning and the.
Yeah,
English
that's a good idea.
language programs, yeah, even better. It wasn't
Okay.
interesting.
Okay, are there,
So then,
and then are we good with in terms of like the rep, like, what do we?
then we have DCLA,
Okay. So,
which. I think unless there's someone that knows anything different, I mean, I don't know what the extent the budget cuts were, if there were.
Anybody know?
It was allegedly fully restored.
yeah, they did their 40 million. Again, in this year's budget.
So we, while technically expense does not have continued support, we just make it some continue, hence that's why it's 38 here.
Right.
So we can just leave it as continued support, if everybody's comfortable with
Because
that.
we don't know, I mean, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, well, that's easy enough.
okay,
I wanna move to.
well.
Okay, this is a new issue, but just what Iris mentioned in terms of what she needs support with is
Right.
it sounded like it was supplies
Right.
for these shelters in terms of non-perishables as well as like hygiene and clothing. But it seems like that goes under like Title I, $1,000
We
per
don't
student
have Title I.
allocations.
Oh.
We don't have
Well-
any Title I schools.
We get some Title I funding.
Do we get-
Yeah.
But I mean, was that through the school or that through I felt that was more the shelter.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
So,
so like
I
the
mean-
PTA and how they're structured.
Well, that might be true too. I don't think she would really care actually if
Yeah.
it came from, but I'm just saying from this perspective, from the committee's perspective, we're talking about the shelter, that would be fall more under. I think
Housing.
housing company and services.
okay.
Maria, you're listening, right? I think.
I am listening, but I'm thinking about like making that work. I don't know how, but I understand what she's saying.
I mean, I'm not saying you can't put it
We
on
can
the
just do another drive.
I mean, frankly, I think that is sort of, she's
Right.
saying like it needs to be organized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually more effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Just do something.
All right. Are we good with moving to capital then?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, do you want to go through, all right, let's go through capital first and then we can go to the specific school updates. I think that makes more sense.
Sorry, say that again?
I'm saying instead, we could go through the updates from each of the individual schools.
Oh,
Or we can just look, but I think you're right, let's go through the capital list and then we can.
yeah.
fill in the blanks. Sorry, I don't know.
Okay. So this is actually where that other sheet though might come in handy.
Yes, that's.
So, okay, oh, right. Okay, so this received some work, right? This was, some of the bathrooms were done.
Yeah, the bathrooms seem to be generally, and
Yeah,
cameras and bathrooms, which were two big
yes,
seem to have been responded to,
yeah,
with minor exceptions.
Yeah.
Maybe this makes more sense just to go through this list.
yeah, just the update.
Yeah, so. Right, so most of the bathrooms were done, there's still one or two remaining, so that does have an easy. An actual defined continued support, so I could see us moving that portion.
Lower on the list.
Into the continued support section.
Mhm.
But it says PS 112 says the staff bathrooms still need to be replaced. But the water fountains have been replaced. So we can, if we're all good, we can modify that, I'll modify that to be more specific. And,
Yeah,
and keep it, I don't know if we wanna keep it as number one, but, or maybe we can keep on going and see.
Yeah.
Okay.
so this was
Um,
done except for PS 111, we haven't heard anything. I don't know about, I haven't heard anything about security cameras, but it does sound like they are coming. They take a long time to get there, 2 years. But, funding was put in and
Yeah.
things are moving with security cameras.
Yeah.
So it may not be something we keep at number 2.
No, it's far to get right, yeah.
Yeah,
Cameras, I would say the same thing, continued support for that.
so the library did receive state funding to do the roof, so for those, this has been like an ongoing capital thing for years and years and years. But it looks like they had a new capital ask for an HVAC system for $4 million, but we haven't heard about that yet. And I feel like, and we're not on the record, right, on anything on this.
well, no, I think this was all part of the, if you remember,
Just the roof.
Yeah.
this project drives me nuts, this is
Yeah.
my personal. You get me off the soapbox now. They ignored this library until it basically was falling down, and, so I think this was all part of it, because originally it was like $8 million or something, some crazy number.
Yeah.
Remember, and out of no, because for years they were like, nope, it's fine,
Right.
don't worry about it, Muhlenberg. And then all of a sudden they turned around and said, oh yeah, we have an 8 million ask for Columbus.
So the HVAC is always part of it?
I think the HVAC was always, I think they threw everything into the pot and then, so they did get some of it.
So
So
I
I
think
think
the
we're,
way I read it, sounded like it was a new ask, but.
Are they asking for 4.5 additional?
That's how.
well, yeah, no, so it says, they decoupled it from the,
Mhm.
so that they got some money from the, for the roof. But they still need the 4.5.
So it sounds like this should be revised into being an HVAC request.
Yeah, I mean, we can say that some of it has been partially funded, but we still want this to be.
And I would probably bump this up since security cameras are
Yeah.
happening, like, we should.
Did
move
they
this.
decouple
Columbus branch, like, I mean, we know that the libraries do so much.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, they do language training, they do job search, they have computer, they have
100%.
kids, all of that, so.
By the way, this library, the children on the top floor, the children's section was closed for a few months because of the leaking roof. So it's,
Right.
yeah. It's,
So we wanna make that number one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wonder if they decoupled it because the bids came in high for the roof. And they're like, we can only fund a $600 roof, we need 4.5 additional for the HVAC.
I think it is on
Yeah.
a weekly update. I mean, no disrespect to the public library, I mean, people work there, it's, you know, they're saints, but it drives me nuts.
This is also a
Yeah.
very long-standing, capital request. But we haven't heard anything. I don't know if it's as high a priority.
Were they asking for this or?
So they had been years ago, and so I think it's just remained on this list as sort of a legacy item at this point.
I mean, he specifically asked for, he specifically said it was their priority last year, but he, you know, he also, this is one of the, you know, he's a great principal, but you know. He makes it, he'll just make anything work. And so in his mind, he's like, yeah, make this the priority, because of all the other problems, I'll figure out.
I will say,
Yeah.
one thing in going through this list, and look, I love PS 111, I have a kid there, so like, you know. They did receive money for a new hydroponics lab recently. So I think like going through this, we should think about like equity of schools, like, let's not try to bundle everything for one school or more, you know, just a handful, so. As much as I love the school and they should get all the money in the world, they did receive a pretty good amount last year.
So I mean, my general feeling about all of this is like, I've never taken a school off a list. you
Right.
know?
Oh, yeah.
So if we're all comfortable, I'm happy to, it's still gonna be on our list, it'll just be moved down.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna change the priorities, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also, it's crazy that it's not ADA accessible.
Well, why,
So it was built,
It's-
yeah, it
yeah.
was built, you know, during a time when they didn't.
They have
When I was even.
do they want like a lift for the stage, or do they wanna make a ramp for the entrance, or?
Yeah, it's a whole
Yeah.
thing that triggers a bunch of ADA stuff,
Yeah, I
but
mean-
basically it's a lit, the auditorium's on from below level, so it's getting folks down. They do have a way to come in through the back, but it's, yeah, it's.
Alright, so we're moving it down.
Are other schools ADA accessible, or is this the only one? Do we know?
Well, I know PS 11 was trying to get ADA accessibility for a while. I don't know what happened with that. I think a lot of these schools are not,
Yeah.
they're so old buildings.
Big heavy, yeah, so.
Yeah, PS 51 like it's a new building, but I think that's the newest school in our district.
As far as I put that on the capital list, I could do something with expense, like a small grant or something.
I think they're doing what they can, yeah, I think they have. All right, 212.
Windows.
So we did hear from 212.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's.
Oh, we did, it says, I mean, well, this is the thing that you know this best.
Yeah,
So it says it's in scope and needs continued support, but scope for every agency means different things. For parks won't do anything until they have all the money, so when they say they're in scope, that means it's actually funded and we're gonna have it. In my experience with SCA, scope means a guy goes out, looks at it and goes, yeah, it's gonna cost X $1 million, and that's it, and there's no follow-up, and you know, it could get done. But there's no guaranteed funds behind that scope conversation, so that's my concern about this, where, I mean, I'm happy to. Prioritize something else if we feel like there's another school in this list that needs a project that needs to be lifted up, but I'm not 100% sure.
well, let's keep going
You
and
know,
seeing, yeah.
And the Bayer Gersten never got back to me at all. So I don't have.
Oh, we had a lot on our list last time.
Yeah, well, it's just a gigantic high school, I mean, it's got 5 high
Right,
schools.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this is, okay,
Actually,
this
Katie,
is technology
hold on
stuff.
one second.
Okay.
Cause you're the last person that had any real contact with, the school in Bad Ruston. Maybe you can reach out, or maybe you
Sure.
could reach out, because I've heard nothing, and
Okay.
so that'd be great.
Could you forward me like whatever
Sure,
email you sent to them
Yes.
and then I can do the.
I mean, literally, it was like last year you asked us to do the windows. But
Okay.
Yeah, but I can do that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, once we prioritize this, why would you contact them and it's, so we already made,
Well, because this was asked for 2 different schools, so I mean, we can include it or we can not include it.
no, but I mean, we're voting on it tonight and then it's gonna be fine. So
Well, we'll include tonight, you know, presumably somewhere, we're gonna include an ask for Bear Dresden, and I'm gonna follow up and try and get more details about what it is.
Like, we're not taking this off the list, we're
Yeah.
just, it's just whether we're including the Baird Westerns. They could come back and say, yep, all taken care of, thanks, and then we're,
And then we
it's
just.
great, that's another win.
So this is tech stuff, Wi-Fi, this is basically what, yeah, the superintendent, so this is what we're moving up the list. I think it just needs to be sort of put together with the other.
Yeah, this is my question to you guys, cause I realize we basically have one in expense and one in capital, so I,
Just put it together.
yeah, would you rather in than it be in capital?
Well, it doesn't. Software is expense, so it doesn't really matter, I don't think it, like, whatever is needed, it doesn't.
So then
Let's keep it on,
In an expense.
Yeah, just keep it here.
Okay.
so this gets moved up.
Wait, are we saying we're taking it out of capital then?
Yes.
Is it in
So it's
capital
not
already?
redundant.
Yeah, this is,
Oh, okay, yeah, it's
this is the
moving up
capital
expense.
list. Yeah,
All right, we are in capital, yes, thank you.
so we're leaving it, but we're moving this into expense.
Hmm. I would like to see the bathroom, the doors, the locks and the doors moved up, because they've been asking for that for a while.
Do you want that before the,
After the Columbus branch,
so yeah,
so it's Columbus branch and then it's,
Right,
Lab Middle School,
yeah, I just wanna see what else is on the list, but
okay.
definitely 2 or 3.
Mhm. Sounds good.
This is the high school. Now, this building has numerous high schools in it. This is one principal, another principal from the urban assembly, school there. Had a new request, by chance I met her, we did the site visit for this, the trash.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got my,
Interesting.
unfortunately, I got my
Wow.
urban assembly schools all mixed up, and I
Okay.
hassled George Locke over at the school that was 1 block over, and then realized that I was hassling the wrong principal. And so he was like, yeah, he was just like, we never had a problem with trash. What are you talking about? Problem with trash. So I apologize today, I was like, you know, but we ended up having the meeting in the right place on Friday. So that's being worked on, and I mean, it's a heavy load, I mean, that school has 150 bags of trash a day.
Oh, my
And-
God.
Whoa.
Can you imagine that? I mean, it's just, you know, it's a mix of compostable, recyclable and trash, but it's pretty intense. So anyway, so there's this request, just so we're clear. There's this request, and then there is a new request on the bottom of this list by the other principal for the PA system. My understanding that request is a lot less money. It's updating the PA system, which doesn't work fully, and you can't like hear like when an emergency kind of thing happens. So, it's a tangible amount, my understanding, it's like under $500,000, so it's like something that can actually be.
And because it's safety related, shouldn't we actually like, move that one up there as well?
Yeah.
But also, sorry, Jesse, is there a ask or something in connection with this trash problem?
No, the trash problem was raised separately. I was just saying the way I ran into this principal was at the trash meeting.
Yeah.
They just have a lot of garbage, so the neighbors are complaining there was trash on the
Yeah.
street, taking photos and sending them to
Yeah,
us, so.
I mean, so they're part of the whole program, you know, everybody's moving over to containerization. And so the reality is, the DOE has a very big program for this, but they're still hamstrung by the number of, literally by the number of these, containers they can get from like, a vendor. They can, they've got hundreds of schools that need hundreds of these containers. And they, there's only certain vendors that have that many, can produce that many in all that time, so it's gonna be a rocky road. Anyway, so, but the principal from the business of sports did confirm that this was still their school's top priority, so. Okay.
Over the security system.
Well, so that's what
Oh,
I'm saying, I had
that's-
two
I
different
see.
principals saying two
Okay.
different projects, so if we wanna choose to make the PA system
Yes.
the priority.
Seems like it, right?
Seems like it, yeah. So number 3 now is the PA system.
For now, we got number 3, we have the locks, we have the Columbus Branch Library, Lab Middle School locks and doors, and then after that, the PA system number 3.
Yeah.
We wanna keep the business, going back to your equity thing, I think we need to think about not putting two schools right next to each other, right? That are in the same complex. Right.
Right.
So you could just move down to Manhattan Bridges and flip them, because the next one is an auditorium for, the auditorium for the Manhattan Bridges.
That sounds good. I was actually gonna recommend that we move up the funding for window air conditioners for all needed rooms at PS 11. And the fund needed security door alarm system at PS 11. I guess there's 2, but it just felt like air conditioning and security door alarms should be like elevated, but that's just a thought.
There was at some point a program where the DOE was supposed to put air conditioners in all the schools, all the classrooms, and I have no idea what happened. This was years ago before COVID. So I think it'd be worth looking into to see what happened with that, but if we could move it up. So you're saying to move that up where, to be number what?
4.
So number 4 is which?
PS 11 air conditioners and PS 11 security door alarm system.
So there, I mean.
Hmm.
Before and by.
I would do one of them. I wouldn't put 2 PS 11s right next to each other.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I think if we want to do,
security,
want to do out, whichever you guys decide.
Frankly, I mean. I'd say
air conditioning.
air conditioning, give those people some air.
Yeah, it's all getting hot too.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so number 4 is PS 11 air conditioning. Do we have a feeling on anything else?
So it sounds like the auditorium at Manhattan Bridges is number 5.
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Okay. And then number 6 is roof garden at 51. Or school library.
What school was the school
I was
library?
gonna say, what's the?
The school library is the high school for,
Sports.
business and sports.
I like the rooftop garden idea, it sounds good.
Yeah, but if there's a high school that doesn't have a library at all, I kind of feel like, oh, poor diversity.
It's redesign of the school
It's a-
library.
It's redesigned, they have.
Yeah, but I think they were saying that it doesn't work for them.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
The rooftop guards also complete it, not to even do it. What does complete mean? Was it already on there?
It means it's partially funded.
What about the duplicate comment on that?
I just recognize that we had a duplicate. I don't know why we had the high school for sports twice.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so the rooftop, it's not there right now. It's not like half built, is it?
No, I don't, to my
Wait,
knowledge.
those rooftop garden 51?
Yeah,
There is a rooftop garden up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what do they want to complete it with?
It's been on it
Yeah.
for
For
a few years.
Years, yeah. I would definitely move up the library.
Yeah.
The sports high school,
Alright.
they need the library.
So number 6 is sports high school. Alright.
And then number 7 is, can we say the security door alarm?
Sure.
And then the garden?
Yep.
Yeah, so just so we have the security door alarm is number as CS, as continued support. Just, I mean, we're gonna move that out of continued support and give that a number.
Okay.
Okay, I just do want to confirm that.
Why would it have been under continued
Right.
support? Do they have some other system, but they want like a new system, or?
Question. I do not know the answer to that question.
Oh,
I mean, I think the continued support decision, memory serves is that I think we. Thought again, this was something that was it had been on there for a long
And
time,
it has, yeah,
so.
at least 5 years, but they need security door alarms.
They probably have something, but this might be like some new one, but also, I guess I feel sort of weird. If we have done continued support and they haven't come back to us this year. Asking for it again, then I think we should leave it under continued support.
And they didn't list it as a priority.
And they didn't list it as a priority, and I don't think we should make a change to it, right? Like, I don't think it should be anything other than continued support.
That makes sense.
Especially since we don't know, maybe you call me crazy, but maybe it's magically.
We did reach out to all the PTAs,
Yeah.
including PS11, didn't hear back from them.
All right, well done. Well done.
All right, so then we have 3 new requests, one of them we've already dealt with. Which is the where's the PA system, so we're gonna something to risk school. PA system is taken care of, place.
So we said HVAC, number 1, which is already on there. PA system is not on there. What's the third one that is?
We're talking about the new ones,
Yeah,
so the new one was PS 33 was fund audio and visual equipment and seating for the auditorium. The next one was the one from the PTA, I believe, right, Professional Performing Arts High School.
Yeah.
Which I think had 3 requests, yeah.
The ADA accessible to the cafeteria seems pretty important. So kids could eat.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds more fun, I don't know about the acoustics of that.
Yeah, I think we pick one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we wanna move, yeah, to
And I
8?
think you can bundle 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
make
I
it
think
about
you
the
can bundle
cafeteria.
1 and 2. Yeah, I think that's, if it's the same facility.
Yeah, it's probably-
Yeah, it's in the cafeteria, so, yeah. Do we wanna move that up at all, or we want to leave that as what I think we're at number 7? At this point.
I think I move up.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where the blood gets.
That's it.
Lord. Who we knocking down?
Wait, what's 5 right now? What are 5 and 6?
I have 5 as being the Bridges auditorium. And 6 is this high school sports library.
I would put it in front of the rooftop garden, make it number 7.
That's what I'm saying, that's where we are now, so.
Yeah.
So just put it.
Rooftop garden, I think we're not.
We're just
Oh, we're
gonna,
not.
doing anything
we're not
with
showing
rooftop
that.
garden, right?
yeah,
So I mean, I'm fine with putting it at number 7, if that's.
yeah, all
I
right,
mean, it is a new request, and so, you know.
yeah, fair enough.
Or I don't know, because it's ADH, do we move it in front of the auditorium renovation and the school library? So number 5? What do you guys think?
Well, this is from the PTA, right? Have we confirmed that it's not accessible at the school?
From the PTA. No, I mean, the school hasn't.
Yeah.
Wait.
I didn't hear anything from the school on this. Though I don't think I've ever reached out to the school. Or if I did originally, they never followed up, so.
Well, there is, I mean, in that building, PS212, there are steps on both the front entrance and the back, and there is no ADA there, I mean, I know. Yeah, my kid, my daughter went there, so, and they share a building with Midtown West.
All right, so you wanna move?
How do people feel about moving that up?
Yeah.
Where past, I guess, what the auditorium.
And library.
So after the PA system and before the air conditioners?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, hold on, I'm sorry, maybe I'm just being. Crummy. Cause I really love me a good AC unit, let me just say. But, I do also sort of feel like. Why should it? I don't know, I sort of feel like, if things should have ADA compliance, and it shouldn't have to be up to us in prioritizing. It's super expensive, but they should be doing it, and why we should be giving up other asks, when frankly, I think we're kind of legally obligated to do it. So anyway, it's kind of a weird argument, like, they're obligated to do it anyway, why should we? Yeah, be using some of our,
Political
yeah.
collateral here.
Yeah, and some of our ask. To tell them, asking them to do something they're supposed to be doing anyway, and why can't we, ask for other things?
Well,
Jesse,
you could,
can
but
you
you'd have to
respond to
say it's
this?
federal law. So you'd have to contact someone from the federal Department of Education. They're not complying, you gotta get in and get involved.
Yeah,
And then we can do
actually,
our ask.
yeah, and I guess it's true that,
Then we can do our ask for the other.
that maybe things are grandfathered in.
Yeah, it's a priority thing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
when you're dealing with a finite amount of money, it's like, how do you designate? But it's,
I guess it was
it's totally valid.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
feeling on that one.
And I think there is power in us continuing to prioritize ADA compliant requests, right? Like, I think there is just that be on the record, that this is where we should all be moving. We understand it requires capital, but that should be prioritized. That said. I think
those
we have-
sweaty kids
Yeah,
without the AC.
I mean, at this point, it's truly, it's a quality of life for all of those
Yeah.
students, so I would be comfortable with keeping our current 1 through 4. So Columbus, locks on the doors, PA system, PS11 AC, and then moving this into the new 5, so ahead of the Manhattan Bridges Auditorium,
Okay.
Business of Sports Live.
I think that's actually what you guys have
Yeah,
said.
that's what we're gonna, yeah.
Also, we
Okay.
can always put in, I don't know how to just send something to, Madeline's office, how we let the feds get involved with the ADA stuff, but the thing is, and this is a little off topic, they're saying that a lot of the older buildings were designed without air conditioning, so they naturally cool with fans and whatever. And today, the modern buildings are built with air conditioning, the problem is that's part of why we're creating global warming. So like if you open the windows, there's certain ventilations in some of the older buildings, air conditioning might not be necessary. And we're just compounding the problem by putting in air conditioning, exasperating the whole global. There's a whole article in the Financial Times about a month or two ago, specifically about that, saying that because we don't design the buildings,
Right.
Well,
the natural flow of air in them, which they did years ago. So it will be creating a catch-22.
So where are we? So we
So we're
got,
done.
okay, great.
That's it.
So,
Well, no,
I mean, I'm happy to put this all together in a much more cleaner
That's all.
list and then send it out and make sure I
That
got
was
what I think
everything
everything
that
is right.
then.
But everything, we just went through everything. And then the last one we already put up, that's the PA
Okay.
system.
so. I think-
So nothing got dropped off, right?
No. Just
No,
something that-
I mean, the only thing that I
Anything.
question about getting dropped off is the Bay of Western, because we have never heard anything, and it's not gonna get dropped off, but it'll just be low.
we're gonna leave, we're leaving it on there now, and I am gonna still reach out to them, and they're gonna send me your email.
So everything in the capital tab was over here, it just has updates.
Yeah, so this is the that's the capital tab, yeah,
With the
with the
updates,
updates, yeah.
Great, so we need to vote on this. So all in favor of both expense capital priorities?
As discussed or agreed tonight,
Good.
You good?
Okay.
all in favor.
Yeah.
Is Maria invisible, or so she can vote, or?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello there.
Maria, she's
You
voted.
see your hand, Maria. All right,
So now,
we should go back. to
yeah,
the
to the
letters.
letter. I will say, so I think we just, so we decided on doing 2 letters on both of these issues. My only thing is we should make sure that this, is rooted in education and making sure, like, cause this is a housing issue, I think also. And so we just wanna make sure like. How we frame this is rooted in sort of like
Well, actually,
the impact of education on students and
yeah, but I mean, I
transitioning now.
think we've heard from Iris and frankly, everybody else we've heard from, like. How disruptive it is to
Yeah.
the schools to have the
Absolutely.
kids go out, come in.
Oh,
How
yeah.
disruptive it
Yeah.
is to the
Yeah.
kids' education, like it really screws it up, right? And even Iris's point about the busing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it takes so much time to get bus routes put into place. And then this completely screws it up because now the kid doesn't live there anymore,
100%.
so.
Yeah, I think we just need to incorporate all that good stuff.
Very related to.
It is, I just wanna make sure the letter captures all of that, because it could easily just be about policy.
Yeah,
And I think it shouldn't be, it should like, always, you know, we just need to bring it back to, all the reasons why it's important for our committee to take
Okay, I'll
that.
do the 60-day. I feel like I have it ingrained in my
Alright.
brain at this point.
And then,
So then the other,
What was
about
the other
the, that's the
Unaccompanied
safe
minor.
haven, oh, this is.
the
a big one.
unaccompanied minors.
oh,
Yes.
yes,
That's two letters coming
Yes.
out of item number 2. right?
Yes.
Anyone
Whose
want
idea
to-
was that?
Actually, I'll take the unaccompanied
Yeah.
letter.
I was gonna say, I could do it with Katie. I was gonna volunteer Katie with me.
Totally. There we go. We're gonna be the co-writers for that. Perfect.
thank you.
And I think that that's really about, and
I
guess
think you're
we-
a strong, Katie, I think you're a stronger writer. Can you start it and then I can also add to it and edit?
Absolutely. Yeah, perfect.
you.
But I guess I'm just thinking, so one of the things that Iris had said, you know, I think she made a couple points. One is that these kids, these unaccompanied youth are ending up in the, you know, adult shelters and they shouldn't be there. And then relatedly, but she'd said she'd heard that maybe a HERC was gonna be sort of dedicated to them.
Right.
So I don't know if we should get involved in that thing, like saying, hey, you should have a HERC dedicated to them, or if it should just be about
I think she said a portion of her.
a person.
And I think
And I
actually
think
that was a
that's-
recommendation
Yeah.
that they gave, and they don't know if it's actually gonna happen or not. I don't know if it's actually, it doesn't sound like it's gonna happen. I think they've suggested that that be a solution to this, like, hey, why don't you do this?
So it sounds, so are you saying that maybe our ask should be that unaccompanied youth should be assigned together and not sort of individually to sort of adult shelters, right? That they should be kept with other unaccompanied youth. And for example, one possibility that we've heard, you know, would be keeping them together in part of a HERC. Should we do it that
I
way?
think,
Yeah, I just think going back to what Matt is saying, I think we're rolling over into your other committee.
yeah,
And I think unless we have a strong component, and there's certainly things to say about the educational impact of a 14-year-old being in an adult male shelter, but I think the majority of that is gonna be coming much more from a human services
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
I think you and Maria maybe wanna take this to
Fun.
Triple HS as a discussion and come up from that point. I just think you're gonna you're threading
Well,
the needle
I
a
just,
little bit.
Jesse or Matt and Josephine, so my thought would be because I think you guys are correct, and I'm thinking, wouldn't it make it more powerful if it came from two different committees, different angles, and from ACES, the educational piece and how it impacts education, and then from human services, a different kind of impact. I don't know if that even, and in
That's
my
fine.
mind, the ACES letter would be much shorter.
I think it's too late,
Yeah.
because I think you're gonna confuse people at full board as to why they're voting on 2 letters. I think you guys should take, I think you can take what you have from ACES right now and discuss it amongst yourselves at Triple HS and do.
And do one letter and maybe even say, as discussed at
Yeah.
both committees,
As
right?
discovered at ACES.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, but then further discussed at Triple HS.
yeah.
yeah,
And maybe you guys need to take a month to work, maybe we wanna have Iris back, maybe we wanna have someone from Laura Atlas from from hospital.
House.
Yeah, someone who can give us a little more context to the.
Cause there's also the issue with like IDs not saying their correct age, and that was a source of confusion. So, yeah, I think this one might need a little more investigation.
We lost Maria.
I mean, just what the request is that, like, are we saying that we want these kids? I agree with you, Jesse. This is not in our auspices. I mean, I guess unless we still cover youth.
But there's also the school's aspect of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
Kids
That's
are
right.
underage, they should be in school, they should
Yeah.
be in high school, so why is that not happening?
I see it as
Go
the
ahead.
same side as the
Yes.
other issue where like the crux of the issue that's within our remit is the instability for children, right? Predictor of their success within our education system for like years to come.
Yes.
But that being said, like however is the appropriate way to do this, we should do that.
Mhm.
But are we saying we will only want them in Hertz? So if you're an unaccompanied minor, it's like you could go beyond 60 days?
I think that's what I'm trying to say. The housing committee should have, someone.
A more detailed discussion.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
should pull maybe someone from, like you just said, Matt, from Covenant House. Ask someone from Covenant House to come, maybe someone from DHS and or hospital health and hospitals who run the HERCs. And have that conversation, and from there, you can have a much more robust, this is where we think what you guys should be doing.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
and Katie and Maria work on that committee and
Yeah.
so it's and the natural,
Yeah.
role.
When is the next meeting, Maria?
Thursday.
Oh, okay, we probably can.
Yeah, so we may have to do it for next month.
Yeah, but you raise it as new
Yeah, just vote
business,
it.
raise it as new business, and
Yeah.
you can get the ball rolling.
Yeah, we can let the chair know.
Yeah, well, and Maria was one of the co-chairs.
You got new business.
Did you have an opportunity for something, Katie? Why is everybody laughing? I missed it.
I don't know, we were talking about, somebody said we should raise it with the chairs, and I was like, Maria is a co-chair, so we're hereby raising it with you.
Yeah.
So we're going back to one letter,
Yeah.
and the second topic being to further discuss the children's
Correct.
rights.
Okay, so it's one letter.
So one letter about the 60-day thing, and then the stuff about the unaccompanied youth.
We'll
We're gonna
take that.
actually put on the agenda for next month at HHHS, and then have a letter come out of that.
Okay, good. Thank you. I dropped off for like 2 minutes, so thank you.
Yeah.
Someone needs to make a motion.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
No, I just had a question, just clarity on the issue with the unaccompanied youth. Is the issue strictly the IDs that they're, or is it a bigger issue? Like, are they just there because IDs say they're 18? And if it is, how do we rectify that?
No, I think even if they were 18 or 19, unaccompanied youth who've made it this far and don't speak the language much and stuff, they should not be in shelters probably with people dealing with some other issues. But it would be better if they were together, in a different setting. And then, and especially because some of them aren't even 18, because their passports or whatever say one thing, but they really are younger. So I think it is a separate issue, right?
You mentioned the hospitals tested their bones.
Yeah, he said that they.
I was gonna say, how does that even happen? Like, who gets that started to say, okay, I think they need bone density?
Well, we could also discuss that more. Well, you can join the meeting. I know you're not on the committee, but you can join the meeting because one of the things Iris did mention is that ACES, or Administration for Children's Services, they normally would take care of children who are under the age of 18 and don't have any parents or guardian, but they're not even doing that in this situation because their ID says they're 18, despite a bone density test, which is beyond my mind. But we can talk more about that.
But Shanice, I think that's a strong point, which is the ID part. Like,
Yeah.
How do you fix that?
Yeah, we can definitely talk more. Jesse has my email. Maybe you can get it from Jesse if you don't already have it.
Send out a full contact list.
Yeah.
I also thought Covenant House serves
I'll reach out to you, Maria.
young people to like 24 now. if not even 26.
I think it's
So
26,
They raised,
yeah.
yeah, they've raised they
Yeah.
Oh,
raise
that's
that
great,
age.
yeah.
So,
Maybe we do that with the bottle cans, bottle cans 26.
Right.
So mine would too.
Yeah,
is there any new,
No, I need a motion and I need a vote.
oh, on the letter?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion for the letter?
Motion
60
to
day?
have a letter come out from our committee, to be drafted by Josephine, that is about, that we are in opposition to the 60-day policy going into place at shelters.
it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mac?
Aye.
There we go.
Okay,
Should have ordered that.
I'm not aware. Yeah.
and any new old business, anyone online, doesn't look like it? Okay, motion to adjourn? All right.
Shall we-